Hello. To talk about the counterpoint, I'd like to start out with a story. Imagine that you and a loved one, maybe your significant other or a sibling, but someone that you are linked with your family, are driving on the road and get into a horrific accident. They end up being put on a breathing tube necessary to breathe, and you end up in horribly injured, requiring that you will have to have physical therapy as well as large medical bills stacking for the next few months. You don't have insurance, you can't be away from your job for long, and if you are, you will lose it and will be put under huge financial debt. The previous presentation had numbers up there about cost of organs on the street. I did some quick math, and you would get about $860,000 based off of their estimates of the street cost, enough to pay for your medical needs if you decide to shut off the breathing tube on your family member and take that money for yourself. And I know that sounds like something that's horrible, you would never do, but you are faced with the fact that your significant other might not wake up, and you'll be paying those bills stacking on top for months and months and months ahead of you, possibly years. What are you going to do? That's why our belief is that legalizing organ sales is destructive to the medical system because it introduces money into what is already a sacred institution of organ donation. It changes the values of the people's lives in the mix because of the money, and it forces the poor end of the socioeconomic spectrum to ask, how much is my family member or my life worth? I'm going to now hand it over to Jamie, who is going to talk about how the money will influence the medical system.
We should start off with thinking about all organs are accepted in the black market. It doesn't matter where it came from. It doesn't matter how it got there. It doesn't matter who it's going to. It doesn't matter if it even is a functioning organ. So let's spend 5 seconds to let them marinate. Money is definitely the motive behind organ sales. When you think about it, most college students, actually mostly all college students, are the biggest target of organ sales. There's many slogans around, like, for example, sell your kidney, buy an iPad. Is your organ really worth an iPad, or is it worth much more? And with the organ black market, there's really no value to human life, and it's dehumanizing to human culture. And it really provokes people to make decisions based off of poor education when it comes to knowing about organ trades. There are over 300,000 people a year who are involuntarily submitted to the organ black market. They do not have a choice. Some people are actually kidnapped for things like this to get their organs taken out of them to sell for whatever reason, and the benefit of the person who is still in the organ. And when you think about it, this is not a serious thing, but when you think about it, it makes you really think about how important another person's life is when you base it off of money. There are people who are laying in beds till this day waiting on an organ, but they don't have the money or the funds to get it, versus someone who might have all the money in the world and they can get an organ at any time they want to. Elena will now talk about the deconstruction of organ donor cells.
So, according to the United States Department of Health and Human Services, there are currently over 119,000 men, women, and children on the current donor waiting list. The way the current donor system works is that they take the viable organs of a deceased donor, if you're registered as a donor on your card and everything, and you have a fatal accident that leaves your organs still viable for a transplant, and they send them to a person who matches your blood type and the size and everything, and whoever's highest on the waiting list. And the people on the waiting list are ranked by not only their need for the organ, but also their ability to accept the transplant and live through the transplant process. So it's a very fair way of distributing people who are donating organs. The donor list is based on people having a great concern for humanity and being selfless and wanting to help the greater community. And many people on the other side think that people aren't intrinsically good enough to make this process work. However, just last year in 2015, the organ donor system that we currently have saved 30,790 people in this country. So it does work, and each year the amount of donor organs and people registered as donors is increasing, and there are a lot of groups out there trying to increase people becoming donors, and we truly believe that that's the better system, and that putting your organs on the market and having to sell them instead of just doing it as a good thing and wanting to do better for society, this is the better way to go. Money shouldn't be a factor in whether or not someone lives. And if we legalized organ sales, people would lose the incentive to donate their organs and would rather sell them to the highest bidder. Those who couldn't afford to pay would then be stuck on the current donor list, and therefore would be waiting for a donor organ that may never come. And the current donor system is the best option for society. Some people say that there's not enough current donors to match the need, and they aren't wrong. It would be very beneficial if we could get more people to consider donating. However, the main reasons that people don't donate their organs right now is because either religion or because they're afraid that if they sign up as a donor, that would make a doctor prematurely pronounce them dead so that they could use their organs. And so based on that knowledge and that research, having it available to sell your organs isn't going to change those people's mind. So people who, if they're against their religion already, they're not going to decide to give up their organ just because they're going to get paid for it. So the amount of organs available, whether or not we're donating them or selling them, isn't going to change that much. But this way is a much more fair system, and it means that people of any socioeconomic status would be able to have access to that organ based on their need and not just based on the ability to afford it. And now Kyle is going to discuss how organ sales takes the humanity out of the process.
So if you look at the organ donation system so far, the donors and the organs that they give are looked at as sacred and as giving a gift that is almost religious to the people who are involved in the process because it saves lives. Now, you eat meat, or if you're a vegetarian, you eat vegetables. Those things gave their lives to you, but no one in this classroom here would think that cow that gave me that hamburger is sacred. People in these groups find meaning in that their loved ones have given organ. A 17-year-old girl, Daisy, gave a heart transplant, or was waiting for a heart transplant and didn't get it in time, but her family decided to donate her organ so somebody else could have their lives saved. And Daisy's family have now gone to join their local donor group and are doing work because they find meaning in the selfless gift of people giving their organs to other people to save lives. They find the ability to gain something back of what they've lost in just working for the betterment of the world in these communities. And the previous group talked about how the current system has black market surgeons. The distinction of a black market surgeon here is basically that they do this service of facilitating sold organs, which would turn the current doctors in our systems into these same criminals in the same way. If you look at the lines of the Hippocratic Oath, which is what all doctors give before they are certified, it says that I will remember that I do not treat fever, a chart, a cancerous growth, but a sick human being whose illness may affect the person's family and economic stability. This is just proof that currently being a doctor is supposed to be a sacred position of service to other people. And this changes this from being a selfless service act to saving wealthy people for the most part, because your average person who happens to get heart disease can't afford $116,000 out of their life one day when all of a sudden they discover they need a new heart. This means that doctors will be bypassing the sick 5-year-old child in the hospital who is going to die without a heart to go save an 85-year-old billionaire who smoked, drank, and wasted his life on frivolous things, when there's somebody down the hall who has potential as a young person, and they'll just be ignored because of money. I'm now going to hand it over to Elena, who's going to take this whole thing home for us.
So I know you kind of, from both of these groups, we threw a lot of information at you guys, and it's a topic that you don't hear about very much. It's not really something in the news a lot, or that's always in our faces through social media or anything. But we believe that you should say no to the legalization of organ sales, because this is a real issue, and one day it probably will be something that we vote on. And the main reason is because money shouldn't decide who lives and dies in our society. We believe that our bodies are worth more than that your body's worth more than that, and the bodies of your friends and families